We are going to have a couple of personal moments of privilege.
Life is full of changes. And for us in the conference office, but particularly for the annual conference, one of the changes is Jerry Wagamuth is retiring after 20 years in ministry in this annual conference. We are so blessed by what he has done through these 20 years. He has worked tirelessly for this annual conference, has gotten the word out. He's also moved us into the digital age many years ago. He took a small studio and turned it in to one of the most effective and the best studios of any annual conference. Jerry comes and grew up in the central Pennsylvania area. His dad was a pastor in the former Central Pennsylvania Conference. But Jerry is very clear that his call has been to lay ministry, and the lay ministry out of this experience. You will find on page 11 some stories and testimonials about Jerry. As I wrote, I have lots of stories you might want to ask me, but I've got to be careful because Jerry has video. But I know that you'll want to join me and the rest of the staff as we say thank you to Jerry for 20 years with us.
Thank you. You folks have turned me into a puddle today, and I'm going to have to speak out of deep water. But I brought some special people with me today. First of all, you know my bride, Ruth. I've always been uncomfortable with the fact that I'm convinced that more people know her than know me from the counter at Cokesbury. You remember Cokesbury? That's the store where the next year's appointments got announced months ahead of the conference office. Oh, the gossip that I got when Ruth came home at night. Next, I'd like to show off my daughters. Next is my daughter, Trina, who's the oldest of the two. Trina is a banker in Ocean City. Well, no. Ocean City's close enough. Okay, New Jersey. She works for Sturdy Bank. Now, don't you love the name for bank? She outdid me. I got as far in the banking business as vice president and comptroller. She made it to senior vice president within 6 months. That's pretty good. Next is my daughter, Tammy. Tammy works for an Amish construction company near Williamsport. I think she's going to write a book of all she's learned about the Amish community, driving their truck, which they don't drive, operating their computer, which they don't use. At the end of the day, she must print on paper what's happened that day so that they can read it and not have to touch the keyboard. And then my little brother, Dennis, who lives locally, and he and his wife, Karen, are house parents at a Hershey school and do wonderful work here in Hershey. And Hershey is partly what it is because of Dennis and his wife, Karen. So I wanted you to meet them because these are my pride and joy. There are some of my family who cannot be here. But I do want to take a couple minutes of your time, if you don't mind. I want my bride to step to my side, please. I've kept her to my side because during our 55 years of marriage, I've fallen down often. Ruth has been there to pick me up, dust me off, and put me back on my tricycle. The visual there is rather disturbing, isn't it? I've never been enamored by the word goodbye. It's just too much like a door closing. I like doors, but I like them best, and when appropriate, slightly ajar, so that I'm aware of what's going on, so as I can join in at my choosing. As I near retirement, I'm remembering the advice of the inimitable baseball giant Yogi Berra: when you come to a fork in the road, take it. Now, there's not a strong sense of direction there, but God, Ruth, and I will figure it out. When I came to this annual conference in 1997 and began writing commentaries, I needed a sign-off. I grew up with scratchy radio and snowy black and white television, so I turned to my favorite luminaries who had unique sign-offs for inspiration. I'm going to date myself terribly, but some of you can recite these along with me. There was newscaster Gabriel Heater. Anybody remember Gabriel Heater? Oh, I've got a couple. I'm not on an island after all. Who signed on during the war years with, "There's good news tonight." How do you like that out of the newscaster? There was Lowell Thomas, who signed off with, "So long until tomorrow." I picked up maybe a couple more people. There was comedian Jimmy Durante. You remember him? Oh, I missed this one. Walter Cronkite ended up the evening news with, "And that's the way it is, July 16, 19 whatever." Remember that? There was comedian Jimmy Durante. Remember him? We called him the Schnozola, right? Yeah, now I picked up some more old-timers. Who ended an evening of hilarity with, of all things, "Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are." Everybody scratched their heads. Who in the world was Mrs. Calabash? Edward R. Murrow ended 30 minutes of news with simply, "Good night and good luck." Well, none of that worked for me until I remembered that John Cameron Swayze, who said after sharing the news of the day, "Glad we could get together." And I used it on and off for 20 years. I have some things that I want to share with you, but in the interest of time, I'd like to defer to my last editorial in the next Susquehanna link. It will begin on page 4 and continue maybe to page 11 or 12. You can rest at ease. I will not be the centerfold. I leave you with a short commentary. My sister and I grew up on a farm just over the hill from Hershey, near Manheim in Lancaster County. I like to reveal that I was born at home in the same room as my father and grandfather, but I always hasten to add that it was not at the same time. That would be an immaculate conception of a different sort. My sister and I agreed about very little. We delivered generous handsful of sand into each other's eyes in our sandbox outside the kitchen door. But at the end of the day, we were family. Into our teen years, I thought that she thought I was a boring, overly cautious Anabaptist. That's not anti-Baptist, that's Anabaptist. You get the difference. She thought that I thought she was a reckless Anabaptist. But at the end of the day, we were family. Our little brother, Dennis, showed up several years later to quell some of our quarrels. A full half century later, I think that my sister thinks that I think she's a conservative Presbyterian. She thinks that I think that she thinks that I'm a liberal United Methodist. But we are family. Mother and Dad are gone, but we are family. is family. May it ever be. Amen.
God's people never forget that message. It is being recorded. Just added one portion of his remarks. But what an amazing, amazing gift. Jerry, I would like you to know that I'm a better disciple of Jesus Christ because of you. I'm a better bishop because of you. May God continue to richly bless and honor your journey ahead with Ruth and with your loved ones. In health, strength, fulfillment, peace, and joy you deserved. Best time of your life. Journey ahead. Let the church say, Amen. Amen.